take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
The world's most advanced cold wallet for the new generation of cryptocurrency lovers, Descent.
In this video, which is number 2 of a 3-part series, we're going to be talking about the new schools bill and how that is going to devastate and completely demolish home education in England and Wales, and possibly Scotland as well. I'm not sure about that bit, but definitely in England. And I'm going to be talking to a special guest who is going to be, I'm going to be telling him about the schools bill. And in part 3, we're going to be talking about what sort of remedies we have against this school bill and what we can do in order to preserve our right to educate our children as we see fit. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for making yourself available. Do you just want to say a little bit about yourself and what you do? And by the way, if people watching, please subscribe, comment, like. Questions in the comments below. Go watch the part 1. Follow me on Odyssey, CryptoRichYT, and my Twitter channel and Telegram and all that sort of business. Thank you so much. Robert, do you want to say a little bit about what you do and how come you and I got to talking?
Of course, yes. Thank you ever so much for this opportunity. And I think we're uncensored now, are we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Say what you like. We're free.
Right. So we met in my home education group, I think.
On Telegram. Yep.
On Telegram. And I also run a common law group on Telegram as well. And I'm also an admin in a medium to medium-sized international Telegram group and a few others as well. And so I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one. So I've got 15 years common law experience. I'm an IT consultant and electrician, and I really favour home education. Very passionate about that. I think it's one of the best things people could do. Permaculture, if you haven't heard of that, it's well worth studying. That could be a curriculum in itself. So that's just a brief introduction from me. So this schools bill, should we launch into that?
Yeah. No, thank you so much, and I'll have all the links in the description below, so people can go check that out. Your Telegram groups, and also the course that you offer, which allows people to learn about lawful remedies. Okay, now the schools bill. So if people don't know, you're new to my channel and stuff, please subscribe, follow, like, all that business. Follow me on Odyssey because I do more stuff on Odyssey than I do on YouTube. Some stuff is too controversial for YouTube. But if you don't know, I'm an experienced and qualified child protection social worker. So I do frontline social work, working in the area of child abuse, and this can involve, and I have done, remove children where the abuse is so severe. That's what needs to be done to protect that child. And I'm very conscious of the rights and powers I have as a child protection social worker. I home educate. My kids have my 15-year-old and my 17-year-old have never ever been to school or anything, and they're thriving. They're doing really, really well, and I talk about that in the first video. And now this government is proposing the schools bill. Now let me share the screen, and I'm going to go through some of the points of the schools bill, what it does, because it is horrific. This is from tapnewswire.com, and I'll link to this in the description below. And this is what the schools bill will do. It essentially removes the rights of parents. And in this article from the conservativewoman.co.uk, it describes it as a power grab, which it is. But here's this paragraph which summarizes it. This bill takes away the primacy of parents and hands that right to faceless civil servants in the Department of Education. It neuters the powers of school head teachers, governors, and proprietors, rendering them uniform and removing any possibility of adaptation to need, innovation, imagination, or creativity. It is an over-regulation blanket that will depress and smother the system. I mean, it's absolutely horrific. We have in Britain a conservative government, but conservative only by name. What we actually have is a WEF government. Because right now, the Tory leadership, conservative leadership, is between Sunak or Truss. I think it's likely to be Truss. Both of them are acolytes of the World Economic Forum. And the World Economic Forum, what it's doing is centralizing power, moving power away from people upwards into the center, away from people into a centralized government, which is going to control every minutiae of people's lives. And I talk about that in my other videos, which I recommend you go and watch. The problem with children that are home educated, I think you'll agree with me, Robert, is the state doesn't have a handle on them. They're free spirits. We can't have free spirits if you want everybody on a central bank digital currency administered through a biometric ID, and you want them having injections, every 3 months or whatever it is on schedule, and having their carbon dioxide managed and monitored and stuff. So you have to have a form of control to access to those children, and that's what the schools bill does. So let's have a look at the schools bill. The points of it. And any comments or questions about what I've said so far, Robert? Anything you want to add or say?
If we're moving to solutions, which I don't think we are in this,
not yet. This is just what
I do. Let me try and think of any questions. I think you're going to go through it. So you're going to go through your.
I'm going to go through it now. Yeah. Okay. So the school bill relates to all children being educated under the age of 18. So my son is going to be 18 in a few weeks' time. My daughter, she's going to be 15. It's going to apply to her. For parents of children in schools, it represents a frightening power grab by the DFE. Even former education ministers in the House of Lords have raised concerns over that. Under the bill, all schools must become academies, which is a particular form of schooling system in England where schools aren't controlled by local authorities. They're sort of standalone entities. And it stops the dual system under which church schools have also operated. The schools bill is also an assault on religious schools, as you'll see as I go through this. New academies can only have state-provided sites, closing the future possibility that any new church school can be set up. And that also goes the same for any new Hindu school or Muslim school or Jewish school. In fact, the Department for Education wants to prevent any new church school from being set up. It's just horrific. I'm not particularly religious, but if people want to follow a particular faith, well, good luck to them. They want to educate their children according to a particular faith. Good luck to them. Point 3, school governance can be decided by the DFE, as the bill gives the DFE the power to remove governors and replace them itself. Now, currently, governors are members of that school, plus also their parents. They've got kids at that school. But no more. The government will be able to send in blow-ins, centralized, I don't know, civil service automaton boffins that'll just do the bidding of central government. So it'll take away local control and parental control. 4, the bill provides that worship and religious education arrangements in academies can be changed or even removed by DFE regulations. So can you imagine, you send your kids to a church school or a Muslim school or something like that, right? And then the government can just say, okay, no more prayer. No more RE in a regular school. No more learning about different religions. They can just get rid of it. Well, how does that preserve parental rights or family rights to pass on their culture to their own children? No, we will all be marching in lockstep to a vision to the WEF vision, where by 2030, if not sooner, we will own nothing. We will eat insects. Kosher and halal requirements be damned. We will eat bugs and be happy. Of course, Klaus Schwab will be much happier because he'll own everything and he will get steak. 5, schools set up under trust would lose the right to receive or buy extra land for their school. So that takes away another level of school autonomy where the schools can't expand their facilities. 6, the DFE will have the right to set the curriculum, removing any freedom of choice from school heads and governors. That's right. Your little children, little Jessica and little Stephen and little Ahmed, they are now going to learn about transgender when they're 5 years old. They're going to learn about the joys of masturbation when they're 5 years old, because the WEF is using that in order to set us up against each other, in order to destroy our sense of self and destroy the family. They'll be able to do that. The DFE will have the right to set school hours and term times, removing any freedom of choice from school heads and governors. More centralized control. The DFE will have the right to set absence policies, completely removing the right of any parent to obtain permission from the head teacher for term time off for any reason. Now, this actually gives the government more powers than I have as a child protection social worker when children are being abused. And we're talking about children that aren't being abused here. And there's a couple of families that I'm working with where the children have had such traumatic childhood, and I'm working with the mothers, and the mothers are doing whatever they can to take care of their children, including working with the schools to say, listen, my kid can't come to school today because they're emotionally distressed, because they're dealing with this issue, because they've kicked off about something or whatever. Won't be able to do that anymore. Won't have that flexibility. 9, the DfE will set fines for absences and has already indicated that these will be punitive. And we'll come to how punitive this bill is later on. 10, the DfE will have the right to set admission procedures regardless of the current admission policies of schools. There's no more independent schools working out how they're going to do this. Schools that have different sort of systems that are a little bit flexible, free schools, Steiner schools, Montessori schools. Nope, the government will get to say. If you are a teacher, the DfE will set your salary level. If you're a teacher, the DfE can ban you from teaching not only in schools, but also online and remotely. I mean, this is Soviet Union. This is Hitler's Germany, because it's so centralizing power, robbing parents of any say of how they organize their children's lives. 13, the DfE will control how the proprietors of schools spend their money, completely removing their autonomy. 14, the bill gives Ofsted the power to seize any material from a school that it sees fit. It will be a criminal offense to not comply. So if there's anything that challenges the mainstream narrative or whatever it wants the children to learn, anything, I'm on a keto diet. If there's anything that says, look, eating carbs ain't great for you, and the government wants to put on really shitty food, can't do that. 15, the bill introduces a register of children not in school. Now, this is where it becomes particularly onerous for home education. This doesn't affect home educating families, but also erodes the rights of school children. If your child takes a day off for an appointment, you will have to register with your local authority. So the families that I work with, they will now be on this register of children not in school, even if they're going to go for a dental appointment. You will be under a duty to supply your local authority with any information that it demands of you, under threat of fines or imprisonment if you fail to do so, or even if you make a clerical error in doing so. This is more power than I have as a child protection social worker. If your children are on a child protection plan, I do not have the right to enter your home. I do not have the right to see them without your consent and without their consent if they're old enough. I do not have the right to ask for your medical information. I can for your children's medical information, for not you. I don't have a right to ask for your financial information, but under this, you will have to supply your local authority with any information. And then the schools bill doesn't say, well, what will it be limited to? I suppose theoretically it could say, well, we want the private keys of your Bitcoin wallet. If you use a tutor or out-of-school classes, the service provider will be under a duty to provide your child's details to the local authority. That'll be another way they'll discover home-educated children. If a tutor or service provider fails to provide the information or makes a clerical error, they can face closure, fines, and loss of their business. So people aren't going to have any freedom to do anything. The government will own you under this bill. If a family member educates your child with an EHCP, which is, I can't remember, I deal with this, where a child has special needs and stuff, or if they have 5 children or more for some of the time, they will have to register as a school and face Ofsted inspection and the duties that the schools have to provide your information to a local authority. So if, for example, you have 6 children that you're home educating, you have to, even if you're just doing it at home, you have to register as a school. You can't do it as a family. You're no longer a family. You're now a registered school. If you have one child who has special needs, who, I don't know, maybe ADHD or autism, and they just can't cope with schooling, as is the case with many special needs children, you have to register as a school and face Ofsted inspections. And Ofsted inspections are nasty. 21, any setting which provides education to one child with an EHCP or 5 or more without an EHCP will have to register as a school. No exceptions are made for childminders. 21, any setting which provides education to one child with an EHCP or 5 or more without an EHCP will have to register as a school. No exceptions are made for childminders, tutors or after-school clubs, forest schools, and large families who home educate. 22, we know that children in the UK are among the unhappiest in Europe, not the home educated ones, by the way, and that mental health in schools is a real issue for many. The bill takes away your right to remove your child from a school without oversight of your local authority, regardless of how that authority has already failed your child. Now, these are figures that are maybe about 10 years old. 16 children every year kill themselves in England and Wales for bullying because they're being bullied. 16 every year commit suicide. And you've got to add to that all of those that try and commit the suicide or harm themselves because of bullying. I don't know how many there would be. And then you have to add to that the numbers of children who are persistently bullied, day in, day out, terrorized, who hate going to school, and their parents don't know about home education, and they don't kill themselves, and they're depressed, and they're miserable. And then you have to add to that the ones who occasionally or for a short period or every now and then get bullied. And it makes their life miserable, not just when they're being bullied, but when they're fearful that their bully's going to be around. And then you have to add to that all the thousands and thousands of children who are witness to episodes of bullying, who live with the notion, oh my God, that could be me. That could be me next. I better keep in line. And then you have to add to that all the numbers of bullies who bully other children, who are damaged, who get to learn that this is the way to relate to people. This is how you have healthy relationships. The numbers are enormous. Every single child in school is impacted by bullying, whether they're bullied, whether they notice the bullying, observe it, or whether they're the bullies themselves. Not so with home educated children. Well, I'm not saying that kids don't fight with each other and stuff and have arguments in the home educated community, but they don't have the day in, day out, relentless picking on each other because they're so bloody diverse. There's so many adults around. There's mixed age mixing, which gets rid of bullying because the oldest kid just sends the message down, don't be nasty to the younger kid. And they're just having a great time doing what they want. That's going to be really, really bad for children. 23. If your child is an EHCP and you're served with a school attendance order, the bill prevents you from ever having it revoked, even if you move from the area or the education that you provide is suitable. This is more onerous than a child protection plan. If you're on a child protection plan, and let's say the work is done after 6 months, 12 months, or whatever, that's it. It's over. It's over. You can contact Children's Services and ask for help for something. Doesn't mean you're going to child protection plan again. 24. The bill gives the DFE the right to close down independent schools and make it an offence for the school to continue to operate. Oh my God, I never saw this before. So if you've got a private school, so you set up your own school and you're doing your own thing, sorry, we want to be able to sexualize your children and then train them to eat bugs and to not listen to their parents and follow their own gods. 25. Independent schools will need to apply for DFE approval if they change their details, including the proprietor, the address, the age range of pupils, the maximum number of pupils, whether the school is for boys or girls, and whether it provides accommodation. So here's what happens. If there's a school, I got a friend who runs an independent type school, right? Montessori or Steiner or Lumiere or a free school, whatever it is, right? If they change the number of schools, they get more successful, we're going to take on a few more schools, just maybe 10 more pupils, right? 10 more pupils. They then need to apply for DFE approval. And then the DFE gets to say or not, and then gets to say how the school gets to be run. What this bill does is take away your right as a parent to choose the education for your child and gives that right to faceless civil servants in the DFE who do not know your child. It makes all education provision come under the control of the DFE and local authorities with no exceptions. And for home educators, it gets worse. Hold on a second. Let me tell you how it gets worse. Home educating parents have to register their children as children not in school. This new category, not children missing education, not home educated children, not children in school, children not in school. If they don't, the local authority can issue a school attendance order, regardless of whether the education is suitable or not. And then the local authority can determine, can put in all sorts of rules and regulations about whether the home education is suitable or not, and they can enforce a school attendance order. There's nothing I've seen in any of the stuff I've read about this that allows any sort of appeal. If you don't abide by the school attendance order, you will be fined repeatedly, And you can be sent to prison for up to 52 weeks. Now, this is more onerous. This is worse than parents who abuse their children than they get. Much, much worse. This is, oh, and by the way, you can still, you serve your sentence, you can be sent to prison again. You can be paid, you can be charged another fine. So there's no, essentially what happens with this bill is that the state becomes the parent of your children. The state gets to say what they will learn, who will teach them, where they will learn. Not you, the parents. And that's why this schools bill is so dangerous. And I just want to make a point about the WEF. Let me stop sharing a second. I have never voted for a Tory or Conservative government in my life. I voted Green, I voted Labour, I voted Lib Dem because they opposed the Iraq War. I've never ever voted for a Tory. Oh my God, I would so wish to have a Tory government. I would so wish to have a real, honest to goodness, traditional Tory Conservative government that believed in small families, God, Christianity, small businesses, the primacy of parents. What we have is this overarching Soviet Union style, fascist, Nazi style, statist government that is going to get into every single inch and aspect and facet of your personal and private life. No religion for you. We get to say what you eat. We get to say what your children will learn about sexuality, not you. Much, much worse than the British did in British India. So, Robert, what did you think of the schools bill, hey?
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
It's evil. It's worse than what Hitler did.
Sure. I mean,
there's
a lot of draconian legislation, but obviously this is heavily targeting the alternative schools and home educators and everything. Yeah. So
I just hope the bishops in the House of Lords kick up a stink about it. The bishops and those that are libertarian, whether they're on the right or the left, and they put in lots of sort of amendments, but we can't rely on that.
No. I mean, it often does get amendments and gets watered down a bit because they always ask for more than they're going to get. It's like negotiation, isn't it? They go for whatever they can get, and then and then they'll try again and again and again. But yeah,
what just on that? What's happened with this government, this WEF captured government, ever since lockdown, is they've pushed more and more onerous legislation. You know, like the public order bill that doesn't allow you to use a megaphone.
Sure. But do you know about previous draconian legislation, like the regulation of investigatory powers bill, that you had to give over your passwords, and if you didn't give over your passwords, you could get 5 years in jail, and then you could get another 5 years if you told anybody about your experiences and what else was there? I mean, there's been draconian legislation for a long time. They've got lots of powers that they don't use. Just because they get these powers doesn't necessarily mean to say they're going to use them all.
Right.
Or have the resources to use them all, because a lot of it's enforcement, isn't it? I mean, we've got 20 mile an hour speed limits in the residential roads around here. There's no enforcement, so those that drove sensibly before still drive sensibly, and those that drove like maniacs before still drive like maniacs. So it's just yeah, I mean, but anyway, yeah.
No, Robert, that's a good point, right, about the enforcement. And I actually personally, from my look at what's happening in the financial world, and I cover this in my other videos, they're not going to be able to bring this through. The Great Reset isn't going to happen. Too much protest, and the financial system is crashing. But you have to watch my other videos to find out about that. There is the issue of enforcement. The thing is, I think there's been a completely different political climate because of lockdown, because the WEF are out to enforce this Great Reset before there's a complete monetary collapse of the financial system, complete total collapse of the financial system. There's a hell of a lot of onerous, tyrannical rules and regulations. I mean, lockdown was evil, absolutely evil, preventing people from worship. Who the hell is the government to get in between a relationship between a person and their God? Is this North Korea? No, I'm not particularly religious, and you may or may not be, right? But it's somebody wants to fund, for Quakers that they can't meet, Muslims can't congregate, Hindus can't get together in a temple. Hinduism has been around for thousands of years. Screw yourself. I obey a higher God than man's law, a higher law, they might say. But anyway, that's my point, right? It's evil. It's onerous. It's not conservative. It's not in any way the tradition of the British or the English legal tradition in any way whatsoever. It's statist. It's intrusive. It's fascistic and authoritarian. And it can't pass. It mustn't pass. Anyway, you do talk about remedies to it, because I know there are campaigns organizing about it and people lobbying MPs and doing what they can to change it, and there will be opposition in the House of Lords and the House of Commons about this, right? And we'll see how that rolls out. But you offer a lawful remedy. And we're going to talk about what lawful remedy is in the third part, in the next video. Was there anything you want to say about the schools bill or anything about this before we move on to the next section?
As I say, it sounds bad. Yeah. It's not. Draconian legislation isn't a new thing, though, although it's new to you if it affects you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People often become aware of how draconian legislation is when it directly affects them, like with coronavirus.
Yeah.
There was draconian legislation before coronavirus, but people only became aware of draconian legislation when they were told they couldn't leave their homes or they couldn't do this and they had to do that and da-di-da-di-da. But in reality, I didn't do lockdown and I didn't ever wear a mask, but a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And it's conformity again, though, isn't it? And this is why they want you in mainstream school and want to control the mainstream school, because they need the system only operates with mass compliance.
Yes.
So you can't have too many people not complying. In fact, the that people were very worried about. They were knocking on people's doors and everything. That went away. People didn't comply. These things like the deadline for care home workers, deadline came and went. Deadline for NHS workers came and went. Do you see, if enough people, a certain large minority, let's say, resist and don't conform, then it doesn't work. It's unworkable.
Very good, Robert. Thank you. And you were going to ask me. Completely agree with what you're saying. You were going to ask me, and I think, by the way, I think the non-compliance is going to get much, much worse as people get hungry and colder as winter rolls in, and all the food shortages and everything. Right? You were going to ask me. You said, when did I first get awake or wise up to what's going on? And people got a question. I think for me, and I was thinking about this. When did it first start? The mainstream media lie. They lie and they omit. And I've known this pretty much all my life. Now, I did go along with lockdown for the first couple of months until I was like, why am I just following what corporations and governments are telling me what to do? My parents are homeopaths. I don't take drug medication. Why am I just going along with Pfizer and Moderna? So that started me questioning. But I was scared in the beginning. And then I didn't observe lockdown or masks and that sort of stuff because I'm an oxygen breather. But the media have lied about me and my friends and family all my life. So I'm Pakistani Muslim. So at various points of living in Britain, I've been lied about as a shopkeeper. I've been lied about because I'm a male chauvinist pig. My wife is Scottish Christian, by the way. I've been lied about being an Islamic terrorist or Islamic fundamentalist. Not to my face, but the lies are out there. I went to schools in part of London, in Brent, which is incredibly diverse, and there were lies about all the African Caribbean kids, 55% African Caribbean, that they're all into drugs and they're all muggers growing up in the 70s. And then a large rump of my friends were Irish in that school, Roman Catholics. So of course they're all terrorists. So I knew they were lying about them. And then the lies about the Iraq war, I learned about apartheid when I was 18. And I was like, why the hell has this been omitted from my view? Why won't we talk about this in our school, that this is going on? And then Thatcher invited P.W. Botha over for a state visit. And why is the cruelty of apartheid being omitted? And then growing up, never ever buying Israeli fruit and produce because of the occupation of Palestine. Like, why are the cruelties of the Zionists being omitted from the mainstream discourse? So in that sort of way, I've always been awake to it. And then why, wasn't so much 9/11, but for me that did it. I know that was for many people, but the Iraq War, WMD. What are they lying? They're lying. They're lying. They're lying. All they do is lie, and then the subsequent lies. And then learning about Bitcoin and gold and silver when I was in 2011, and learning about fractional reserve banking, and then discovering Bitcoin and the lies around money. Just liars, lies, 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 lies. So that's my answer
You
to
can
your question.
tell. You can tell when they're lying. Their lips move.
Yes, all they do is lie. All they do is lie. And then
But-
and then and I've now got this rule of thumb that if they say that this politician is bad and evil and a racist, white supremacist, whatever, right? Oh, I should listen to them. Not that they're going to be the solution, but smearing Jeremy Corbyn for being an anti-Semite, give me a break. Smearing Trump for being this out-and-out fascist, give me a break. The first president not to start a new war since Carter, versus Barack Obama, who started 7 wars, all smoothness and charm, smooth-talking assassin, killing American citizens without habeas corpus, and just bringing on that mass murderer Tony Blair for his point of view. No, the mainstream media and the government is not your friend. And we're going to talk who is your friend. Well, really, you want to verify anything and everything, but in the end, it really is down to you and to us uniting together. And we're going to be talking about what are the remedies to the schools bill. But it's not just the schools bill that you talk about. This is applicable to all sorts of situations in common law jurisdictions. And common law jurisdictions are essentially England and the former colonies, including the United States, Canada, India, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Kenya, all those countries that adopt that their legal system was born out of the English legal tradition. All right, Robert, any last words before we finish up and go on to our next video?
No, that was a very informative session. Yeah, I haven't looked into the schools bill too much because I focus mainly on the lawful remedies of things. Yeah, it's if people aren't aware of draconian legislation, they should be, and then look for solutions to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have the links to your Telegram group in the description below, and also the links so that people can find out about the schools bill, and they can read the articles from Conservative Woman, which has more about it. Okay, please do subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, and also make sure, give me a comment below. What do you think of all this? Do you home educate? What are you going to do about it? See you in a moment.